That's right. That's right. It's Thursday. It is the first Ivy League four-team softball championships. And ladies and gentlemen, you know where I am. I am in Princeton, New Jersey. We're getting ready today for, what is it? Yale taking on Harvard, epic, and and Columbia, the 4 seed, taking on the 1 seed. That's right. The Princeton Tigers. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Last night, I don't know what you saw, but what I saw was Steph Curry saying, "Oh, hell no. You know how I am. Oh, hell no. No. We're not doing that. We ain't having it. We're not. No, third quarter, it gets close. Steph Curry says, whap, 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 whap. Next thing you know, old street clothes, he gets knocked in the head. Next thing you know, Anthony Davis is out. LeBron's on the bench. And Jordan Poole is mopping up in garbage time. I'm not surprised. Neither are you. We put it out yesterday at some point, a sassy little parlay of Knicks and, of course, the Golden State Warriors. I think most people felt like Golden State was going to win. I got a monster for you today, and I need you to stay right here. Tommy Tuberville, 2-time Coach of the Year in the SEC, also state senator from the great state of Alabama. Remember, he's the one that said about transgender women and Megan Rapinoe, if Megan Rapinoe had to play against men, she would be working at a Piggly Wiggly at Walmart, or nobody would have heard from her. We're going to talk to Coach Tuberville about that. But you know the news of the day. I'm going to get into the Knicks in a second. Hang in there with me. You know the news of the day is, of course, the schedule leak of the NFL. Now, I got to tell you, is this not amazing? And I'm asking all of you out there, is this not fascinating that the NFL can make their schedule release a week-long celebration leading up to a release of the schedule tonight that literally means nothing other than you know when your team is going to play. And if you are a fan, you're going to get out your phone, you're going to start looking, and you're going to say, where in the hell am I going on a road trip? I think I'll go there. I think I'll go there. And then the beauty of it is this. The beauty of it is, well, there's been a lot of leaks. Like the Bears play the Packers opening day, 4:25 in Chicago. Apparently, for the first time since I don't know when, non-Thanksgiving, opening day is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs against, ladies and gentlemen, think about this for just a second. Just think about this. Against the Detroit Lions. Now, give me that. When's the last time the Detroit Lions were ever on national TV other than on Thanksgiving Day? You and I both know we got to sit through the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving Day. Of course we do. You know, I know, we all got to do it. We don't want to do it, but we got to do it. I don't want to sit through the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving Day. I do not want to do that. But now we get to sit through them because Dan Campbell has made the Detroit Lions interesting. Dan Campbell is the opposite of Frank Reich. He is Frank Reich opposite. He is the, Marlboro man to Dylan Mulvaney. Yeah, that's right. And by the way, I have an official beer that I am going to announce. My official beer of the summer is going to be announced today, and Lee's is as well. Dan, can you run for president? I think I should. I do. I think I need to. I think America needs me in the Oval Office because we would have a hell of a lot of fun. We would have an absolutely great time. But look, here is the deal. The deal is simple. You got a notification for this, Fred, because it's the greatest morning show in the history of the world. We're getting new viewers. And here you go, because this, ladies and gentlemen, will addict you. Ask the people on the chat. You shall be addicted to our show. All right, here's the other deal. Trump was great last night. It happened. CNN's mad that it was all Republicans. I'm not going to get into that. There's a lot of places that you can get into that. But I do want to get the schedule release and discuss this. Can you believe this? You saw the crowds at the NFL draft. You saw them. It was insane in Kansas City. It was nuts. It's like, holy crap. When they did that drone shot over and they came flying in and you saw all of the people in the, what is it called, the electric district or whatever they call it, it was unbelievable. Well, the NFL just keeps going. They just keep going. So earlier this week, to build up to what we're going to see tonight, what did we have? I'll tell you what we had. We had the release of the international series. They even got a name for it. No, it's a bunch of teams that are losing home games that are going overseas to expand on what the NFL is trying to do, which is take every dollar out of your pocket and into theirs. That's what the NFL is trying to do. You know this. I know this. Let's not BS each other. But I got to tell you, it is entertaining. So when the schedule is released today, here's what you're going to have. It's the start of something. And I want to walk you through this because everybody asks me, who do you like? Over unders. Boy, I really like this. And we talked a little bit about it with Chris Felica, the Bear, yesterday. It's the start. All right, let me walk you through. One of the most important things, Gene Katie said this a long time ago, sometimes it's not who you play, it's when you play it. And when you play them, is it after a bye? When you play them is not always decided by the schedule. Quarterback's hurt. We play him the next night. When you play him, quarterback's out. He's just coming back after being on the bench for 4 or 5 weeks. When you play him, star wide receivers out. Sometimes the when you play him, as you know in the NFL, is that nasty Thursday game. That Thursday game seems to kind of bring bad back to good and good back to bad, if that makes any sense, because the games have been horrible. So that's the start of where we're going to ultimately get to, which is we're going to bet a ton of season over, season unders in the NFL this year. This is the start. Well, actually, the draft was the start. We got a little feel because there were certain trades. We got a little feel for, okay, we know Aaron Rodgers is going to be with the Jets. We know the Colts are probably going to start Anthony Richardson. We don't know what's going to happen with Will Levis, although we are hearing that they, meaning the Titans, are looking to get rid of Malik Willis, which is crazy to me after 1 year. But hey, that's the plight of the NFL quarterback. You either do or you get gone. I like the little white strip down the side of my face. I think I look very sexy. It's like a gray beard that is just kind of coming in. You know, it hasn't gone across my face yet, but it's a gray beard. So anyway, that's what we're looking at today. We've got a number of people. We're going to have Tommy Tuberville on. He's going to talk about that. Ross, I can't wait. Ross Tucker will tell you exactly what everybody's looking for as we move towards the schedule. And then we've got a guy named Chris Krim. Coming up at 10 o'clock, we've all heard about the horrific deals at the border. We've all heard about how horrible it is. Yesterday, massive shooting. You all saw that. It was terrible. No good. Well, a lot of things are happening. He was the border chief in El Paso, Arizona. He knows more about this than anybody. And we wanted to have him on because we want to keep telling the truth on this show in areas not just related to NBA, not just related to NFL and sports. We want to continue telling the truth about what is going on in this great nation of ours. All right. Speaking of that, last night, it was the easiest parlay. I'm not going to lie to you. You know what? The Knicks were not going to lose last night. I'm sorry. And neither was Golden State. I mean, we've talked about it on this show. A lot of you that have not watched the NBA are starting to watch the NBA. You're starting to like the NBA, and I ain't mad at you. See, the NBA has lost all the crap. The NBA is now giving us really good basketball. The NBA is now getting up and down the court, shooting the ball, doing all the things that we enjoy the NBA doing. Instead of sitting there with LeBron James with a 2 pages in Malcolm X book or somebody trying to tell us all how to live. I don't need to be told how to live by anybody other than my late father and my mother. That's it. That's all I got. But the NBA playoffs are absolutely heating up. They're on a roll. They're rocking and rolling. They're shaking and baking. And I can't wait to continue to watch. But that was the easiest parlay of the night last night. Maybe one of the easiest you're ever going to have this time of year. You know, Ross Tucker is involved in a lot of things. The Ross Tucker podcast is absolutely fantastic. The draft, preseason, you name it, football-wise, Ross Tucker's played it, coached it, done everything you want to do in it. And he's nice enough to join us now. And he's an incredibly handsome man who looks good on TV, which balances out the look. Ross, I would have more respect. I would be in a better studio in my house. But it is my stepdaughter, Harvard softball weekend. We're in the championships. My stepdaughter's a senior third baseman. I am here in Princeton, and I'm wearing all Harvard since we got in last night. That's it, Ross. So I apologize.
That is amazing. Look. Well, first of all, let's go Tigers. I didn't know that, but I'm wearing my Princeton gear. You know, Dan, you're going to appreciate this, okay? Especially since your stepdaughter goes to Harvard. So I played in the league from 01 to 08, right? So all I had was all this like Redskin, Cowboy, Bills, Patriots, like the old cotton stuff, right? So I wore that from like 2008 to 2011 because that was like the free stuff I had. Well, I lost weight and I realized the cotton stuff wasn't where it's at. It's like the dry fit stuff now, right? Well, the only people that send me stuff is Princeton because, I went there and every time I would go back to Princeton to do a game on TV for NBC Sports Network or whatever, they'd give me like a gym bag full of stuff. So fast forward a couple years, my daughters are in preschool, okay? And I got kind of a flexible schedule, right? So I drop them off, I pick them up. Then all the other parents, it's like a nice preschool, right? They're all looking at me like I'm that academic snob that wears the Princeton stuff every day. They're looking at me like by the third week, I could just see some of the other dads were like, we get it, dude. You went to Prince, like, we get it. Like, meanwhile, I'm wearing like Crocs or whatever I'm wearing, right? So I told that story once. James Franklin, I live in central PA, right? Like Harrisburg, Hershey. And James Franklin was here down the street recruiting Micah Parsons as a junior in high school. And I told Franklin that story. And he starts laughing, whatever. I don't think anything of it. 4 days later, Penn State was on their bye week. 4 days later, okay, they're playing Michigan, whiteout Saturday night. I get a big box sent to my house. I open it up. It's all Penn State gear with a handwritten note from Franklin that says, good seeing you Saturday. Needed to get you some other stuff to wear around town so everybody doesn't think you're a snob. I mean, like dude, people ask me like why he's successful. Like that's like that guy is on it. Man. He is on it.
That's don't come down to our level, Ross. You're all Ivy League. Don't drop down to the. I went to Indiana. Don't come down to the Big Ten level. We think we're academic. Hell, I remember my first day at IU as a basketball player. I stopped at a stop sign. Guy ran up to me. He said, "Hey, Dan, what degree do you want?" We just pass him out here at Indiana. So I mean, don't come to
Dan. I'm quite sure you probably could have gone Ivy League if you wanted, but you were such a high level recruit. That you went to the best basketball program.
I will tell you very quickly a story. Harvard called me because I sent out the little questionnaire that I had a 4.8 grade point average. This is a true story. Calls me, Dan, we thought you were going to Indiana. I said, Harvard's different. I would love to go, the Ivy League. He goes, says here you got a 4.8. Ross, swear to God. I said, well, yeah, but it's on a 6-point scale, which was true. I go, it's on a 6-point scale. The guy could not have been more polite hanging up on me. You know what I'm
saying? It's funny, by the way, my daughters, Dan, both play softball. So that's great that your stepdaughter's there and playing. Like if my daughters somehow were able to play, in the Ivy League softball, that's incredible. So kudos to her for being able to accomplish that because that is big time.
Yeah, I got to tell you, this is our third time at Princeton. I love this place. I love Harvard. I like walking around, but I think Princeton, the downtown, the places we found to eat, terrific. All right, let's get to the matter at hand. It is scheduled day. You are a player. Take yourself back. Do you beg or want or think about national games, Monday night, how many? Maybe how little Thursday, Sunday, the big night, that kind of thing. Are you thinking about that?
Oh, so Dan, I'm so glad you brought this up, right? So first of all, the first thing every player looks at, almost every player, is when the bye week is, right? like, hey, maybe that's when your alma mater has homecoming or something, high school or college, or maybe that just happens to be the weekend where your idiot best friend who's selfish is getting married in the fall, even though you're a professional football player. I'm talking to you, George, and you can't go to the wedding. Maybe it matches up where you can actually go to the wedding. Dan, when you're in your 20s, there's nothing like a wedding. I missed at least 4. I mean, my one buddy got married in August. I'm at training camp. I'm 320 pounds. It's like 95 degrees out. I got to get up at 6 a.m. the next morning to go run into 340-pound monsters. And my wife's texting me, I'm having so much fun. Oh, I'm like, oh, thanks. Thank you. I'm glad you're having fun. Well, I'm, getting my balls busted and getting the crap beat out of me. So first thing guys look at is the bye week for the reasons I mentioned. Then it's probably Thursday night games, because Thursday night games, you get that weekend off too. It's funny because I would say, Dan, it might be 50-50. There are some guys that don't like Thursday night games because they don't like the short week, right? I loved it. I'll tell you why. There's no practice that week. Like, you play Sunday, you basically just have walkthroughs Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You play Thursday night, everybody's watching you, and then you get another weekend off. I started one of those game balls behind me. I started on Thanksgiving for the Cowboys in 2002. That was great. I came home the next morning to Pennsylvania. It was my 5th year high school class reunion that night. I had started the day before for the Cowboys. Like, if you said when I was in high school, what do you want to do before your 5th year? I'm like, I don't know, maybe start for the Dallas Cowboys the day before. That'd be fun to walk into my 5th year high school reunion. The other thing that's interesting, Dan, and I don't know there's probably no equivalent in hoops, right? But it's probably 50-50 how guys feel about primetime games. So you got the guys that love the primetime, they love the spotlight, they love playing under the lights. But if you're at a primetime game, you still have to be in a hotel the night before. So you just sit in the hotel all day doing nothing, and it sucks. Whereas if you have a Sunday 1:00 game, man, you get up Sunday morning, you get to the stadium, you play, and then after the game, you're tailgating, you're going out to dinner. You can do fun things after that. So a lot of the guys like me like the Sunday at 1. The wide receivers probably like the primetime games.
When I became the head coach at Bowling Green State University, the first thing I did was change the Saturday game from 8:00 at night until a noon start, unless TV was involved, because I hated sitting around all day waiting for a freaking game. So I get it. And by the way, had I started the night before with the Cowboys and went to my 5th high school wedding or a reunion, Michelle Metz might have talked to me. She might have talked to me. Now, we're 60 years old. You know what I mean?
Dan, I specifically made a point to say hi to all the girls that weren't interested in me in high school. It's like, hi, Jill. How are you doing? Oh, hey, Barbara. How you doing? What'd you do yesterday? Did you have fun? Oh, no, I had to work, unfortunately. Yeah, I had to work a little bit. Yeah, it was cool, though. We won the game. It was on TV. There's like 30 million people. I don't know if you heard about it. I played for the Cowboy. You ever heard of him?
But you're a good-looking guy. I needed stuff like that. Like, you could walk in. I've been carrying this load for my whole life. I needed, like, I think I wore my Indiana basketball uniform after a game when I went home one Saturday to a party. I'm like, hey, guys, remember me? I got this. Hey, let me ask you, because I got a lot of Indianapolis people watching.
Yeah,
Your thoughts on Richardson? What do you think?
Well, first of all, let me tell you this, Dan, because I do all the Eagles preseason games on TV, and I do all the Eagles pregame. So I know Steichen really well. That guy's awesome. Like, I don't know if you've talked to him yet, but Steichen's awesome. I mean, whether it was in the meetings, on the practice field, or even like before games, I would talk to him for a while. That guy gets it. He's awesome. And I was thoroughly impressed with what he did with the Eagles offense the last year and a half. And I said the entire pre-draft process, they're taking Richardson. I knew they were taking Richardson. I mean, all that Levis stuff, I never bought it. Shane Steichen, 2 things. Number one, he has the template for how to develop a kid like Richardson, right? Like the first year with Hurts, it was heavy run, heavy quarterback run, and they were successful with it, mixing in the pass, a lot of RPO stuff. Second year, they expanded things a little bit. And I think he has the template, the blueprint for how to use Richardson in Indy like he did with Hurts. Here's the other thing, Dan. And I do a college game every Saturday for CBS Sports. Like, once you have a quarterback that can run as a coordinator, a play caller, there's no going back, bro. There's no going back. Because those guys realize how much easier it makes everything. I mean, it cleans up the passing lanes. It puts the defense in a bind. It's real hard to go back. I didn't think Levis was a good enough runner. Frank, I didn't think Stroud was a good enough runner. I thought Steichen, I believe if he had choice of all three of those guys, I believe he would have taken Richardson because of the running element and Steichen now knowing just how impactful that is as a play caller and play designer.
We're getting a lot of smoke thrown at us, and separate this for me. Well, they're gonna not play him. Well, they're gonna play him. Well, you're talking about Steichen. He's a first-year head coach. He doesn't care. Your first year. I'm playing Richardson. Your thoughts on how much does Richardson play, and does he do it early?
I think he'll play as soon as Steichen feels like he knows the offense well enough that he won't really hurt the team, the other players, and or potentially himself, right? In other words, he won't be like ready. But I think as soon as Steichen feels like he can call a pretty decent portion of the offense and that Richardson's not going to not know what he's doing. Because here's what you don't want, Dan. You don't want to put a kid out there and he doesn't know the protections and doesn't realize this guy from over here is going to be unblocked and he's going to get ear-holed. You can't have that, right? He can watch Minshew for a couple weeks if that's the case. But I tend to think, based on what I've heard about Rick, like he's evidently like this great kid. I mean, everybody you talk to, I haven't talked to him, but everybody you talk to says he's like this unbelievable, great kid. And so my guess is that they'll probably have him up to speed, ready to play pretty early, if not right away.
What are your thoughts? Let's move to other teams. Let me stay in the AFC South real quick. We're talking about Stroud going to the Texans, Levis going to the Titans. Are either of those guys, Stroud's got to be impactful, right? What do you see out of him? What do you see out of Levis?
So I wasn't that high on either one of those guys. And I'm no like quarterback guru, right? But man, you watch Ohio State, Dan, and like 2 years ago, I swear every throw Stroud made, Olave or Garrett Wilson, there was nobody within 10 yards of him. Right. They're playing like IU or Purdue or something, and Chris Olave runs a deep post. There's nobody within 20 yards of the guy. Like, and he has 2 first-round offensive tackles or high pick offense. Like, it's like he's never under duress. The guy, I think that's why it's been a struggle for the late Dwayne Haskins, for Fields, and initially, and really the last couple of years throwing the ball. I think it's just so much easier at Ohio State. It's not their fault, but it's just like the NFL is just harder. The guys aren't as open, and the pocket's a lot tougher. You don't have a clean pocket. So I think that's going to take some getting used to for Stroud to realize, whoa, this isn't Ohio State, against Northwestern anymore. This is a lot harder than that. And then for Levis, I didn't think Levis was going to go in the first round. To me, I called him Kmart, Dan. And it's not like a knock on Levis. It's my dad sold chocolate Easter bunnies for 30 years, okay? So he would sell it to like CVS and Walmart and Target or whatever. And he told me when Kmart was going out of business, he's like, Kmart's done. I was like, why? He's like, they're in the middle. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, if somebody just wants the cheapest thing, the lowest price, they go to Walmart. If someone wants, like, just needs something right now, right, for their house, but they want something a little bit nicer, they go to Target or Target, right? Like, nobody went to Kmart anymore because they were in the middle. They weren't the cheapest, but they weren't the nicer thing either. That was Levis, right? Like, Levis wasn't the polished pocket passer like Stroud. He needs to be developed. He also, though, wasn't like the high-end, crazy size, speed, arm like Richardson. So I thought whoever's going to draft at the Texans or the Colts, they either want the upside or they want the ready-to-go guy, and Levis kind of got stuck in the middle. He might end up being a really good player, but I just didn't think there was a great argument to take him over the other guys.
When you looked at all right, this is stupid, but let me just ask. So you saw that was that the C2 score, whatever it was on Stroud, and then
S2
I think Levis has a
cognition,
punchable
S2
face.
cognition test.
Yeah, I think Levis has a punchable face. So I don't want to draft him because I just think he has a punchable face. I do.
Well, my question about Levis, and I've thought about this, okay? Who's the last quarterback like that jacked, that yoked? Like the pictures when he's in the bathroom and he takes it and there's like muscles upon muscles, like his back. Look, more power to him. I'm going to the Jersey Shore this weekend. God, I wish I looked like Will Levis. I would never wear a shirt ever. But it's funny, Dan. I can't think of like a single Hall of Fame quarterback that's all shredded and jacked and yoked up like that. I mean, Cam Newton was pretty jacked. Brady Quinn, pretty jacked. But like, who's the Hall of, like, when I played in New England with Brady, all he ever talked about was like being flexible and pliable. And I don't even know really what pliability or pliable means, but that's what Brady was looking for. And you look at Levis, like, he doesn't look real flexible to me. Maybe he is, but he looks like he's all like all muscle bound.
Right. But you don't get into the punchable face, and that's probably good. I just as a coach, I look at some guys and I'm like, yeah, I think it's a fraud. But hey, look, you said it. I mean, he's got an arm. Hey, where are you at with the whole running back thing? Bijan Robinson goes early. Saquon Barkley doesn't get the money, or at least yet, that he wants. Where are you at with running backs?
Yeah, I think I'm fine with you taking him at certain spots, like a Bijan Robinson or a Gibbs. My issue is the money then. For example, right, like Bijan Robinson, he gets a 4-year fully guaranteed deal for $22 million, which isn't like crazy money, but that's also tied for the third most guaranteed money for any running back. Now, he'll be a rookie, so he'll probably end up, playing the 4 years, and you'll probably be fine with it. But I don't know, there's something weird about drafting a guy that's never played, and he's already got the third most guaranteed money in the league at his position. In other words, like, there's a reason why these teams don't give other running backs those type of guarantees. Yet this guy gets it, right out of college.
Aaron Rodgers to the Jets. Not a great secret. People seem to think this was happening, and it ended up happening. AFC quarterbacks, not bad, really, really good. Where are you at with Rodgers going to the Jets, and where are you at with the Jets?
Well, so you know this, Dan, right? Like, pro sports are about self-interest and people doing things that are best for them, and that's fine. It's pro sports, right? Like, this is your profession. You're trying to do what you can. This is about the GM and the head coach wanting to get contract extensions. I mean, it's the 5th year for the GM, Joe Douglas, who I like. 3rd year for the head coach, Robert Saleh. I think they kind of know they got to make the playoffs this year, Dan, or they're done. So I felt like they overpaid for Rodgers with the one next year. But guess what? They're going to make the playoffs now, more than likely. And the owner is going to be thrilled. They make the playoffs for the first time since like 2011 or something. They're selling all kinds of merch and season tickets and luxury box. They make the playoffs. So then Joe Douglas gets a big extension. Saleh gets a big extension. Everybody's happy. And then they'll figure out what to do after that. But I thought they gave up too much. But how much is too much if it's not really your money and it's not really your future draft picks if you get fired?
This is great. I got to ask, because you played for Belichick. I don't care what anybody says. Maybe it goes away now, but the divorce was always going to be, here's what Brady did without Belichick. Here's what Belichick did without Brady. And Brady won that to this point. You buying Mac Jones. Now the division's a little bit tougher. You buying what Belichick can do as a general manager still? Where are you at with that?
No, I mean, Dan, I think there's a very good chance they're the worst team in that division. It's kind of amazing to say, right? The Dolphins look good, the Bills are the Bills, and the Jets, obviously getting Rodgers, are better. it's kind of remarkable how things have changed for the Patriots, right? I mean, they've made the playoffs 1 out of the last 3 years since Brady left. Unlikely to make them this year. Likely to be the worst team in the division. I'm really curious to see the dynamic in New England if they go like 7-10 this year, right? They go 7-10, and I mean, do people in the media start to say the unthinkable? Like maybe move on from Belichick? Does Robert Kraft start to see less people in the stands? Less people watching on TV? I don't know. I mean, it's very difficult when you had the success they've had. It's hard to get people to tune in or get people to come to the games when they're used to a team that's going to the Super Bowl every year. And now there's like no expectations for this team this year.
Let me just go this route. So you mentioned 7-10, which I think would be a disaster, given where they've been the last few years. Maybe I'm overstating that. But what would be acceptable? Because it's obvious, and you know this better than anybody, and you just said it, the bar is not nearly as high as what it once was. I always felt like when you guys were there and it was Gronk and it was Brady and it was, Hernandez, Super Bowl, let's go. What is the bar that makes it acceptable?
Yeah, I mean, when I was there in 2005, I played a little bit against the Broncos in the divisional round, and we lost. And that was a huge disappointment, to lose in the divisional round. In fact, Dan, I think Brady was 10-0 in playoff games until they put me in. That was the only playoff game I ever got in my career. Because my other 6 years, we didn't. I think I only made the playoffs 1 year, and I was hurt. So the only playoff game I ever played in was Brady's first loss. That's like one of my claim to fames, right? Like I ruined his impeccable streak. But it was a disappointment. I mean, it was disappointing because they didn't even get to the conference championship game. Look, I had played for Buffalo the 2 years before and had started against the Patriots 3 times. So I was like, my wife and I were already talking about who we're going to give the Super Bowl tickets to. I was like, I'm finally with the team that wins it every year. This is amazing. So I think they got to win 9 games. I think 9 and more. You can at least argue winning record. We're building this around a young quarterback still, blah, blah, blah. I think they have a losing season or worse, and it'll get really interesting because I had to look how many games Belichick is away from breaking Shula's all-time record, because I'm sure Kraft would love for him to break that record in New England, but what if it's going to take him 3 or 4 more years because they're only winning 6 or 7 games?
If you were the NFL czar and you had the ability to put teams on national TV, I'm going to assume that it would be the Chiefs. If it's not the Chiefs, who? And take the Chiefs out of it if it is. Who do you want to see on national TV the most?
Well, I know who they would say, because they would say the Cowboys, because their ratings reflect it. This year, the Jets, because of Rodgers and the big market. Totally get that. But for me, for my personal benefit, I kind of like the Lions. It just came out, Dan, that the Lions are playing opening night at Kansas City, which is pretty cool. I really dude, Lions fans. I mean, I really like when teams that have been so bad for so long and haven't given their fans anything through I'm telling you right now, Lions fans, unbelievably loyal. Jets fans, the Browns fans might be the best. I mean, the Browns have given them nothing over the years to be proud, and those people are still diehard. So I want to see the Lions. Dan Campbell's a former teammate of mine in Dallas. He's an awesome guy. And I just like when the perennial also-rans, especially the long-time also-ran, I like when they're good. I there's something about this Lions team I like.
Last thing, you know what I like about the Lions? And this goes way, way back. I mean, way back to when I was a little kid and Jim Plunkett was the Heisman Trophy winner. And in our world, I never saw Jim Plunkett in college. We didn't have the games on CBS Sportsnet and all this other stuff. So you heard about him, and then you see him in the NFL. He struggles like hell, can't play. Everybody, and then he comes back and wins Super Bowls with the Raiders. I don't know if Jared Goff's going to do that, but I like those kind of things, I guess, going back to Plunk. That makes sense?
Totally agree. I love redemption stories. I love anytime like a player or a coach that people have said can't do it when they do it. Because I can't stand when people, like when Marvin Lewis with the Bengals, never won a playoff game, never won a playoff. Like I hate that because it just becomes like a crutch that people use when they don't know what else to say about somebody.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And look, I don't know what's going to happen. I hope everybody, I want the Colts to be good because people get excited. Hey, Ross, thanks, man. Hey, whoa. Best Mother's Day present ever? What do we got?
All right, so I'm telling you this, Dan, because I know you probably and a bunch of your listeners. I know your mom. This is awesome. This kind of gives away because I read recently that your mom listens or watches every show. So maybe not the best gift. Although, actually, you know what? Maybe now she'll put a guilt trip on you to get her one. I got this company that I'm partnering with. It's called myfrontpagestory.com. Dan, you literally talk to one of their writers for 10 minutes while you're driving home from work or driving to Steak and Shake or whatever, right? You tell them how great your mom is or how great your wife is. They write this unbelievable story with pictures of her. It looks like it's on like the cover of the Indy Star. It's phenomenal, right? And I've seen it so many times now. You hand it to them, they start opening it. They're like, what is this? Dan, it is so money when you say to them, I had a story written about you. Like, they're like, what? Like, they think that you like commissioned Bob Kravitz or somebody like to write this like amazing story. And then the quotes, like my sister and I got one from my mom. And my mom, when my mom read the quote that said, I wouldn't be the woman I am today without my mom, from my sister, she started bawling. And my mom's in her 70s now, so she's got one of those like townhouse condo deals where like the family room and dining room and kitchen are all like one room. She has it hanging up right there. So it is the best gift ever. It's the gift that keeps on giving because they hang it up in the house. Myfrontpagestory.com. Trust me, myfrontpagestory.com.
I just wrote it down. I've got a lot. There's a lot of downtime in softball. So while I'm there, I'm calling one of these dudes, and I'm going to see if I can get. If I don't get it by Mother's Day, I don't care. Here's the
deal. Here's the deal, Dan. Order it, myfrontpagestory.com, and then they're not going to be able to get it for you by Mother's Day at this point. Right. But guess what? You print it out. You print out the order form. You put it in a card or an envelope, and you give it to your wife or your mom, whoever, on Mother's Day. And you say, I want to do something special this year, so I'm having a story written about you. And Dan, imagine the anticipation for your mom or your wife as they're waiting for that story to get there. It's going to kill them. Like, what's in the story? Like, what did they write about me? Who they're like, it's almost better this way. It's almost better to give it to them just in an envelope with the order that showed you got it ahead of time, but then they don't actually have the story yet. They'll be at night waiting to read this story. It's myfrontpagestory.com.
I got it. Myfrontpagestory.com. I'm on it. Swear to God, show's over at 11. Somebody will be on the phone with me by 11:15. I swear to God, that's the greatest thing that I have heard. And I'm all in.
Especially for you, Dan, because you're always getting articles written about you every time you tweet something or say something. Your wife and your mom never get anything written about them, right? Because they're not controversial, but they're awesome. They deserve a story. They actually deserve a story about how they tolerate you all these years.
Right.
And how they handle you.
Right. And I can tell them how they screwed me up. Yes, it's cheap. Hey, man, thanks. It's the Ross Tucker Podcast. What you got going this week? What's on?
Yeah, man. So honestly, it's a daily show. So if you want football in 25 minutes or less, listen to Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Yesterday, we had Greg Cosell breaking down Rodgers and Lamar Jackson. He's the NFL Films legend. I'm actually recording today's episode, Dan, tonight with Michael North, the director of broadcasting from the NFL. So right when the schedule comes out, I'm going to be on it with Mike being like, okay, why'd you do this? Isn't it unfair that the Jags get back-to-back London games? Why did you do that? Tell me about this. So if you want to learn about the NFL schedule, how they do it, and get all the questions answered, check out the Ross Tucker podcast tonight or tomorrow morning with Mike North. He's the scheduling guy for the NFL.
Beautiful. MyFrontPage.com and Ross Tucker podcast. Go Crim. Actually, I don't know if you know this, but Harvard and Princeton co-champs. Harvard 2 seed, Princeton 1 seed, because the Tigers got two honestly, out of 3
Dan,
over here.
I hope I can say in all sincerity, I hope the Harvard kids win, because I hope that eases the sting a little bit of them not being able to get accepted to Princeton. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like I know at night it bothers them still when they go to bed and they realize they couldn't go to the number 1 school in the country. So if winning a softball game helps to ease that pain and that burden, well, then good for those girls. I hope it happens for them.
And you're damn right it will, pal. Yeah, it will. It'll ease everything. It makes up for everything for a faulty admissions department here in Princeton. Yes. Yes, it does. Thanks, Ross. Thanks,
See you, Dan. Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks for coming on. How fun was that? That was an absolute blast. Go to the Ross Tucker podcast. I got David saying I did my front page story for my wife for Mother's Day. It's amazing. Tears coming on Sunday. True story. I will be all over. We'll be right back.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader.
I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life.
ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna lib. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Come back. We're going to have Coach and Senator. See, Tommy Tuberville is such a diverse guy. I don't know whether to go with Coach because I've always called people Coach. I got to call him Senator because he's a senator. We're getting him hooked up right now. One thing I did not touch on was Bob Huggins got spared yesterday. Bob Huggins, we all know, couldn't have acted like a dummy. And the University of West Virginia decided they were going to keep the legendary coach, and what they were going to do was take $1 million of his salary. He was going to have to go to sensitivity training, and his contract was no longer a long-term contract. His contract is and was reduced to a year-to-year. Got to tell you, that is what I don't care. Like, people are saying I wanted him canceled. I didn't want him canceled. I just want to tell you how dumb he was, what a cheat he was back in the day, at least relative to me. But Coach Tuberville, if you remember, when talking about boys transitioning into women and playing women's sports, had a great line about Megan Rapinoe. He said that she would be working at a Walmart or a Piggly Wiggly. And you know what? He's right. I mean, look, women know. Like, I tell you all the time, my wife, legend. I am legend. She is legend. My wife's a freaking legend in the world of softball. And guess what? She'll tell you the same thing. She'll tell you the same thing. If she had a pitch against 73-mile-an-hour men throwing fastballs, no way. Although she could hit it, and she, again, was an All-American, but it's not the same, and it shouldn't happen, and we should not put women in places where, ladies and gentlemen, they have to compete against men. You know, I don't, when guys are so well-rounded, I never know what to call them. So we have Senator Tuberville, we have Coach Tuberville, and before we start, I'm going with Senator. I got to apologize. Your background looks very American. Mine looks like I'm doing it from the bathroom, but I got to tell you, Senator, my stepdaughter today starts the Ivy League championship. She's a stud third baseman. We are in Princeton. I'm wearing all Ivy League gear. I'm wearing all Harvard gear. I apologize for the look, but it's for a reason, Coach.
Well, there's nothing better than going to watch your kids participate in sports. I'm telling you, I was a coach. Obviously, y'all know that, but I would leave practice and go watch my kids playing basketball, run track. I would not miss it. And I think that's one of the most important things that we do. We support our young people, especially our kids, in being the best they can be, and show that we appreciate their hard work in sports, because sports are hard work no matter what level you're in.
Coach, I want to get right into this. My wife is a legend in coaching in softball. She's a first-team All-American, took Toledo to the College World Series, all-time winning.
What'd she marry you for? What'd she marry you?
What's that?
What'd she marry you for?
Well, she's also got all this talent. Impaired and down on her luck, apparently. But, Coach, we are very big on this transgender thing. Is making me nuts, making her nuts, where boys are playing against girls. Coach, you were very vocal about it, and I really appreciated you saying what you said. Thank you for that.
Well, we got a bunch of morons running this show, and I don't care. This country gives you an opportunity to do what you want, right? I mean, be what you want, think who you are. I don't care if you want to be a giraffe, be a giraffe. But being unfair in terms of participating against other people, wrong. And I'm going to fight this tooth and nail. There's other people going to fight it. I need more people on my side speaking out about this unfair. And it's really unsafe. You've seen some of these things happen. The transgender boy that, or whatever you call it, spiked the volleyball, hit the young girl in the head, put her in the hospital, really hurt her. It's unfair, unsafe, and it's downright wrong. And what does our country come to if we allow this to happen? It just makes no sense. The Democrats have lost their mind. They're following the far left, and they're on this bandwagon now, and they think it's a winning issue for them. It is not, and we're going to fight it.
Coach, you're involved in these. I always say I coached for a long time, college basketball, and I broadcast for a long time. But broadcasting, you don't know like you do when you're a coach. You don't know as a voter like you do as a senator. You mentioned, do you believe that Democrats, do you believe liberals actually believe this is a good thing for the country, or is this just pandering for votes?
Oh, you just hit it. It's pandering. There has got to be, most of the people on the left up here have daughters or granddaughters or nieces that love sports. And if they believe that this is right, it is either for votes or they've lost their damn mind. It is, you can't make sense of any of this. There's no sense, but they are all in, all the way from the White House down. I mean, they look at these issues thinking we can just add a few more votes here. This place that I'm in right now, in Washington, D.C., it's all about getting reelected. Care less about what happens to our country, happens to our kids, happens to the future. Please vote for me to give me power to have a name up here. I was a football coach. Football coach is a hell of a lot better job than obviously, what I'm doing here. But I like what I'm doing because I'm standing up. I've actually had a job. Most of these people up here haven't had a job in their life, but they love being called a senator or a congressman, a little bit of power. We close this place down for about 3 weeks out of every month, come up here and actually try to get something done for a few days because we don't get anything done here. It's a ring around the rosy here.
Coach, as a football coach, it is every day you're trying to get something done. Every day you're trying to improve. Every day you want to see your team get better. Individuals get better, offense, defense, individuals. How frustrating is it for you, number one, based on what you just said? And let me go another way. How remarkable is it that the people actually running this are, as you said and Trump said last night, morons, idiots, whatever you want to call them? Does it just stun you that this is the level of person running the country?
It's shocking. I mean, this is the bottom of the barrel. Now, you've got some good people here, some good leaders, people that really want to do the right things, but they're few and far between. If you want to do this for a living for 40 or 50 years, you've lost your mind. I mean, this is not a place where you come and stay forever, but we need term limits. We got people who've been up here forever. The thing that I don't like about this place, it's all about seniority. Now, if you've been up here 30 years, I don't care whether you've got any sense at all, you've got a huge say-so. And that's the problem that we have here. People stay forever and they ride around these black limousines with Secret Service agents, and most people don't have a clue who they are, could care less. I don't know why they need security. I walk to work every day, and it's just absolutely mind-boggling to me how we've gotten in this position of just people stay here forever, and they couldn't do anything else, so I guess they're up here. Now, again, I'm going to go back and say this. There are really good people up here in some areas, but we got a lot more people up here that need to go home and mow their grass or get a real job for a few years and then run for a position, because you'd actually know what the American people do and how they're struggling and how we can help them. But most of them don't have a clue.
Coach, the American people that I deal with want to know what can be done about three things. One, what can be done about this administration, this press secretary, this president, looking in the camera and lying every day? Two, and maybe I got this backwards, they want to know what the hell can be done about prices of food in the market, at the store, that kind of thing. How can the inflation come back? And three, quite frankly, I think people more and more, even in the Midwest where I live in Indianapolis, they're concerned about the border. Like, when is this going to hit us? Those are the three things American people hit me with all the time. There's others, obviously. What is your sense of those three things, starting with the lying that we see every day from this administration?
Well, I think that's prerequisite to have a job up here on the Hill in Washington, D.C. You can't really lie and sell it to people. I think that's the you won't last very long. So you've really got to throw some big ones out there. My gosh, what we're seeing on TV, especially from this young lady that's whatever she does, she comes out and says something about, well, I don't want people to go to that hearing every day to listen to her read from a book. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for me to be an American to know that somebody like that reads from a book and just downright lies. 90% of the border's under control. Are you kidding me? People across the country better wake up. No matter what's happening, inflation or bad education, crime, all this stuff's going on. This is going to get us. This is going to bring our country to our knees. What's going on? I've been there several times. I've seen it. We've got people from Russia coming across, China. We've got terrorists coming across, the drugs, but all that. But we're going to be overwhelmed. And I go to Europe a lot now to meet with leaders and all those things. They have ruined their countries in Europe because of what happened back during the migration days after some of these countries just went nuts. And you look at the European countries, they are in turmoil because of all the people that they let in to change their culture. just because they think they're going to be nice. You have to have borders. You have to have borders to have a country with laws and a constitution. But Joe Biden and his group, they're all globalists. They do not want borders anywhere. And I was on a plane the other day, sat beside a lady from Canada. She goes, "What are y'all doing here? You do not want to be what we are in Canada now. We have lost our country. We've got a dictator that's pretty much changed everything. And you got the same thing coming your way, and you're going to truly regret it." I'm sitting there listening to a lady just that lives it every day in Canada and the direction that we're heading. It's really sad.
Coach, I went back and I kind of Bill Clinton is a Democrat. Bill Clinton was very, very adamant about shutting down the border. He was very adamant about it. Politicians have been talking about this for years. What happened here that the ideology of the Democratic Party /Biden /extremists, whatever you want to call them, what happened here that ideology switched from even, Clinton's not that far gone. What happened here?
They can't, the left cannot have anybody like Donald Trump become president again. And actually somebody that loves the country, that believes in it, that's had a job, that understands the business, that understands budgets. This place is so corrupt in our institution, the FBI, the CIA, everything that goes along with it. It's just, we've lost it. They will get in these hearings, the people from all these institutions just downright lied to you. And they've covered all this stuff up for years. They know they'll go to jail if we get a guy like Trump in there that can't run again, that has 4 years left, or anybody on the Republican side that's going to do their job. I don't care who president. We've got to win that position. But it's all about power. They want everybody to come in. They're going to give, if they can somehow, that's the reason they're so mad at the Supreme Court, that President Trump got a majority in the Supreme Court, because they know the Supreme Court will overrule them if they start going after the Constitution. But if they get the Supreme Court and all those things in the next few years, you can kiss us goodbye, because this country as we know it will be gone. But they want everybody to be able to vote. They want to give amnesty to everybody coming across. They want to write more checks to the people. Listen, I'm on the ag committee. We're getting ready to write a farm bill. It's up to $1.5 trillion, this farm bill. Now, I'm for all helping our farmers. Only 7% goes to farmers, like a little over 100 billion. The rest of it, 1.3 or 4 trillion, goes to giving out SNAP cards, food stamps to people that sit on their butt and don't want to go to work. Now, I'm for helping people that can't do anything, the people that need help. But we got way too many freeloaders in this country. And if we don't change the direction of that, it's not going to make any difference. But they want people to vote for them. And that's the reason this border is wide open.
Coach, I know you're busy. I cannot thank you enough. By the way, Urban Meyer was my neighbor. He was a football coach at Bowling Green. I was a basketball coach at Bowling Green. We lived next to each other. We're great friends. I told him I was having you on. He wanted me to make sure that I told you hello. And thanks for running. I tell him, I said, he and I ought to run. I mean, if Coach Tuberville's doing it, let's go. Let's get in there. But he wanted me to tell you hello.
Well, Urban's a good guy. I think I'm the only guy got a winning record over Urban. I beat him a couple of times at Auburn, but good friends, good coach, he'd make a good politician. Again, not that I'm any good up here. I hope I got a little common sense, and I see what has happened because I've had a job traveling across the country, going to schools, parents' homes for years, and I saw the decline of our education, which is another huge problem that we got with these teacher unions out there, because they are ruining our country through indoctrination. But that's for another time. But thanks for having me on. God bless you. God bless America.
Coach, I hope you'll come back. Thank you. I hope you're okay with me calling you Coach. It's a sign of, you got so many titles. I don't know what to do.
I love it. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach Tuberville. That's Senator Tommy Tuberville. Nice enough to join us. We're going to get right into the border. Chris Krim is the former patrol chief of borders in Texas at El Paso. He is in Arizona. I mean, we're going to talk to him coming up here in a minute. What a great, great day. Hit that like button. Tell your friends. Let's go. I love this show. I'm going to tell you what, we're going to make this show the biggest in the country. This has me so fired up today. Aaron and Dylan and Ryan and everybody else. We're going to come back. Chris Krim's going to join us. Former border chief right in El Paso next.
One thing you'll notice is every pitcher will do this or this or this, and that's to get moisture for this. Okay, this is rosin, and the rosin bag, if you can probably see this, it's coming out. There's a little dust, right? It's like a little fine powder. Of itself, it's not sticky. Like I have rosin in my hand, it's not sticky. However, the second I do this, when I'm sweating, I make the rosin sticky. That's when I go back to the ball and rub the ball up to give me a little more adhesion between my hand and the ball. Now, here's the thing. If you think about this, if I put a fine powder on my hand and then I make that powder wet that makes it sticky, any dirt that I come in contact with is going to stick to my hand. All right. So what you're going to see over the course of a couple innings will be my hand will start to darken because it might look like a substance, but it's not. It's just sticky rosin that has dirt in it. Now, I was a guy, so here's the thing. I threw a split-fingered fastball, right? I did not want the ball to stick to my fingers ever. So I didn't want rosin in between my fingers. So I would wash the insides of my fingers between innings with alcohol if it got too sticky. However, there are other guys that throw sinkers, certain breaking balls, who will want the ball to be extra sticky, and they'll just let their hand muddy up. Now, the umpires can certainly say, hey, listen, you got to wash it off. That's fine. But they have to acknowledge that just washing it off isn't going to change the fact that it's sticky, because you go back to the rosin, you have more moisture, it gets stickier. Your hand's going to look dark no matter what, right? And if you touch your hat all the time, you'll see that Major League Baseball players' hats a lot of times will get dark under the brim or dark at the cap. Also, guys like Gaylord Perry that used to cheat, they would use Vaseline on the inside of their caps. They would use Vaseline on the inside of their bottom lower lip because it stayed there. And you see guys that used to do this a lot. That was what they were doing, and then they'd lick their hands. Anyway, so your hand's going to be – so Max's hand was clearly in a non-agreeable state to the umpires. He went back. I'm sure he watched it. But he came back, and you could see the way he was arguing. He didn't do – in his mind, he didn't do it. He followed their orders. He did what they said to do. And this ambiguous rule needs to be fixed and changed.
Chris Clem headed the southern border, El Paso, Arizona, 27 years, maybe more. He has been involved in keeping our nation safe. Now he's retired, but this is the perfect person to talk about this. All right, we were talking off air. The world got a little dose of the press secretary, I think, blatantly lying to us, saying, well, immigration is 90% secure. She had to be talking about something other than the southern border, right?
Yeah, well, first of all, yeah, absolutely happy to be here. It's going to be a good conversation. When she mentioned 90% was down, what she did was she cherry-picked a specific piece of a parole program. And when we are talking about parole, we're talking about when we allow people in the country through a special process. They come to the ports of entry, or in our case, between the ports of entry, we had a parole process. Let me just kind of backtrack. Our numbers were so crazy. We had so many people in custody that by policy and by certain statutes, we can't hold people more than 72 hours. So then we start violating our own policies and laws. And we had to find a way to get people out of custody. So we started paroling people in, and some of these folks were going to Florida. Well, there was a lawsuit by Florida against the United States. So that basically shut down several demographics, several countries, Haiti, Venezuela, I think, Cuba, and whoever we were paroling at the time. And so when that lawsuit happened, we basically had to stop paroling people. So therefore, those numbers, those specific countries dropped by 90%. So the fact was, when applied under these conditions based on the lawsuit, there was a 90% drop. Let me tell you, the numbers are through the roof. There are 28,000 people in custody on our southwest border right now as we speak. That's crazy. So that was a complete. I don't really give her many breaks, but she really messed that one up, and probably need to come back and say and tell the truth that was a fact that was misinterpreted by the press secretary. I hope that kind of
you've been down there. You know the deal there. That was your life. I mean, that's what you did. Everybody that has been, I just had Senator Tuberville on. He spoke very plainly about the mess that it is. People say, look, it's simply about the policies of Joe Biden. It's simply about Biden wanting open borders, globalization, whatever you want to call it. Give me your thoughts on why are we allowing this?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I call the balls and strikes the way I see them. It's how I've always gotten by in my life. It's how I survived 27 and a half years in the Border Patrol. I'll give you numbers, and this tells a story to all your followers here. In October of 2020, so that's the beginning of fiscal year 21, October 2020, prior to the election, in Yuma, where I came and got there in December that year, in Yuma, they averaged 25 arrests a day. In November, that number went up to 35 arrests a day. All right, we had an election. In December, it went up to 54. In December, it was up to like 79 by January. By February, over 100. By May, a few months after Biden had taken, we were at 500. That year alone, in fiscal year 21, 114,000 arrests in Yuma. It was double what they'd ever seen before. In fiscal year 22, 310,000 arrests in Yuma. On Inauguration Day, the President of the United States did several executive orders that basically stopped the wall system, which was more than just brick and mortar. It was a lot of other things associated. He stopped the Migrant Protection Protocol, which is also known as the Remain in Mexico program. He stopped a lot of the agreements we had with other countries for folks that were looking to come to the United States. And that was after our folks in the transition teams in Washington said, hey, if you do this, it's going to be a problem. So don't do it right away. Well, he yanked that Band-Aid off with no plan. And I mean, we were underwater, and it's crazy. I just mentioned we have 28,000 people in custody right now on the southwest border. We had over 10,000 arrests yesterday. I mean, and that's just on the southwest border, 10,000 people, and there's more to come. And the famous Title 42 expires tonight at midnight. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. It's a new day.
What does Title 42 expiring mean to the average person?
Well, to the average person, what Title 42 was a Center for Disease Control, CDC policy that under any certain circumstances, like a pandemic, you can expel anybody from the United States. In other words, you don't get a hearing, you don't get due process, you get just go back to whatever country you came from. In this case, they were coming in illegally from Mexico. That should happen anyway when you're coming in the wrong way. But what that did is that gave us as agents, literally we could remove somebody or expel them within 15 minutes. Okay. So if you had people, and it really was one of those situations where they realized they couldn't get in. And if they did, they were going to go right back to Mexico, be expelled. So they weren't coming in. Well, when that expires, we'll have to take people into custody, and we'll have to go through a complete process, which is going to take, 2 or 3 hours per alien, per migrant. And then they're going to remain in custody. And then we're not going to have any room. There's no room to hold them. They are going to be released to the communities. And so what happens to the average person, what they're going to be impacted by is, instead of expelling these migrants right back to Mexico, they're going to be processed. They're going to have their information taken. They're going to be given a court date months or years down the road, and they're going to be released on the streets to non-government organizations who are going to then help get them to where they want to go. And in most cases, at least those that are coming in Arizona, are going out towards the Northeast. So they're going to figure out and get flight arrangements, and they're going to show up in communities, and they have an initial check-in with immigration, usually within 60 days of them being released. But it's going to take 2 or 3 years or more before they even have their initial hearing, to where a judge may decide if they get to stay or not. So they're going to be here. These migrants are coming, and there's no plan to remove them. And there's a reason for that, I believe. But we can follow up with that down the road here.
What is the reason?
Well, there's a couple reasons. There's a practical reason. We don't have any detention space, because the politicians, especially those on the progressive side, have pushed for defunding ICE. Well, ICE is Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement. Their sole charter under the Department of Homeland Security is detention and removal of unlawful migrants. So when you reduce the capacity to hold people so they can stay for their immigration case, and if they get ordered by the judge to remove, ICE would remove them or deport them. Well, when there's no room at the end, they get released. And so that creates this monster that we have, where we have no place to keep people. So we have to release them. So why? There's a lot of conspiracies out there. They're trying to bring in more voters. They're trying to do all these things. When the lack of answers to your questions is when these conspiracies start. I cannot think of a reason other than just these people are nuts that are in charge of these policies. Look around our own country. Look at the homeless problem we have in our own country. Look at the financial problems we're having in our own country. Shouldn't we clean up our own backyard first before we start allowing more and more people in? Look, I think all of us, the majority of people in the United States, want to help people. We want to do what's right, but charity starts at home. And we've got enough problems here in our own backyards that's where we should be focused on. Pump the brakes for a little bit and then figure out some plans. It almost sound crazy when you're trying to think of why they're doing this, because it makes zero sense. You travel, you go to all the major cities, and it's just homeless, but yet we're letting in thousands of people a day. It's crazy, Dan. It's crazy. I don't really have a great answer other than they're nuts. I don't. I mean, what is the answer? It doesn't make sense. There's no sense about it.
Chris, when did the cartels? When did China? When did Russia get involved in being? Well, I mean, people are saying the cartels are making billions off of this. People are saying that people flying in, China's involved, Russia's involved. When did all this start?
Well, that's been going on for a long time, right? So we had a good grasp on it, and I think to kind of let people know, the cartels, and there's several cartels, and they have subsections, and they control anything and everything that comes to the U.S. border, that comes in, from the southern border and illegally or even approaching the border. I can tell you that the numbers last year when I was there, the average range was $5,000 to $15,000 a person. All right. Now, look, we caught 2.2 million people last year. Do the math. Somebody's making a lot of money. You're talking billions and billions of dollars. And so that's the typical price, right? And not everybody is paying money up front. And this is where it gets really dangerous, right? This is where human exploitation, where these policies are putting people's lives at risk. Somebody that can't pay that price is going to pay it somehow, either through indentured servitude, through prostitution, the trafficking piece of it. They're going to be working for these cartels. Their families are or their property is going to be seized to make up for that money. On the China piece, right? So that's where we have the fentanyl coming in, right? We know that is being shipped into Mexico, and then the drug cartel portion, or the drug side of the cartel organization, is pressing this stuff into pills and smuggle it into the United States illegally, obviously through either the ports of entry and vehicles are on people, or illegally between the ports of entry, and that's what's winding up in our streets and being repurposed into all sorts of different drugs, and it's killing our key people. I mean, what do they say? The teenagers, 15 to 25 or something like that, 18 to 45, that age group. It's a big group, 100,000+ people, fentanyl deaths. That's coming through our border, and there, no one can deny that. And that's why, and I'll stop after this point. That's why, regardless of what your political leanings are, border security, it should not be political. It is about securing our nation's borders. It is about keeping Americans and their communities and the people safe. It's about having a lawful process to come into this country. I've said this before, and I like saying it again. We should be a nation of tall fences and wide gates. The tall fences keep us secure, and the wide gates keep lawful trade and travel and people and commerce coming through the right way where they can be inspected and keep both sides of the border, whether we're talking Mexico or with Canada, safe and secure, because you have a safe, secure border. There should be no politics involved in that.
I mean, YouTube chat is pretty lively, pretty big. A guy asked me, "Can you ask Chris what's a border czar supposed to do?" Now, the border czar apparently is Kamala Harris. What the hell is she supposed to do? What is she doing? I guess is the better question.
Well, I'll try to do my best word salad to explain that. I don't know. I got to tell you. I don't know. It was never defined to us. I was a sitting chief when that happened. I believe the intention was to go get to the root problems, and the root problems was climate change, I guess. No, the root problems are the pull factors of the United States allowing people to come in here and to remain and receive benefits when they really don't get the benefits. I do know that the border czar, the vice president, did go to El Paso sometime well after her anointment, and went to one of the processing areas, a real quick visit on the ground. Certainly, we've done those type of dog and pony shows, and get it. She is the vice president. It's going to be very structured, but there's been nothing that is. I don't know what a border czar does, I guess. I apologize. I wish I had a better answer, but we were never explained. I think she's supposed to be the point person for the U.S. government around the world. And I think she went to Mexico City and Central America one time, but nothing's changed. Nothing's changed.
She gets to be the borders or the AI czar now. That's great. I mean, I look, the amazing thing to me, Chris, is that last night, Donald Trump, a sitting senator from Arkansas, right on with me before you, have used terms like idiots, morons, incompetence. It's amazing to me. Like, I understand the normal person sitting at a bar or maybe on Twitter is going to say, man, these idiots. But you guys are in the know. You guys have dealt with this. And that's the response. And that's the level that others, talk of these people. It's amazing to me that we are at this point in our country. I'm astounded at our ineptness in voting, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what, I had a plan when I took over as chief in Yuma back in 2020. I was going to, reassess after 2 years. And about a year into it, my wife and family, we said, yeah, we'll probably do a year because that's what it was, right? You were like, we were taking 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. As soon as we got some kind of handle on something, they would change the direction. I really look. I spent some time in Washington D.C. I've seen how the widgets are made up there, and it's frustrating. And so when you get on the ground and you sit there and try to look into the men and women's eyes, say, hey, give them the good college cheer and let's get this done. And you really know that, hey, these people don't know what's going on, and it oftentimes falls on deaf ears. And so, what is real interesting is the push now. For you start hearing the talking point now. Congress needs to act. Well, we've been saying that for decades. It was a talking point that I was saying. But you know what? Last year they had the House and the Senate and the White House, and they didn't do anything. But now they're going to blame Congress. Look. It is executive branch, i.e. the White House, Domestic Policy Council, and the Department of Homeland Security that control the policies. Congress makes the laws and gives the latitude for the executive branch to execute, and it's their policies. Look, I will tell you this. Trump's policies were clunky, but they were effective. They had room to where we could smooth them out, but they were effective. Look, if they wanted to change the name and put a border czar stamp on it, but it was going to secure the border, it was going to slow things down, it was going to keep people safe, it was going to limit the amount of human exploitation we're seeing, I'm all for it. Change the name. But what they did is they just ripped the Band-Aid off and let the bleed still come. It's nuts.
It's not stopping, is it?
No, I can tell you, we know that information, the Darien Gap, down in Panama, South America to North America. They had 40,000 people pass through there in the month of April. Where do you think they're heading? I'll also say this: you hear this administration talk about this problem not being unique to the southern border, and that sounds really neat and it sounds really fancy because all these countries south of us are dealing with this problem. But here's how they're dealing with it: they're helping facilitate them. They're not stopping in Panama. They're not stopping in Central America. They're maybe slowing down in Mexico, but they're coming to the United States. So this problem is unique to the southern border. It is unique to because this is where they're all heading. They're all heading here, and they come from all different. Look, in Yuma alone, a small section of southeast Arizona last year, 116 different countries. So for your followers and people that are listening and viewing, look, it's not a Mexico or Central American problem. This is a world problem coming in here because countries are allowing it to happen. Our State Department, our administration are not, having the backbone to say, hey, knock this off. It needs to stop. Does it need to stop permanently? No, but we need to slow it down so we can figure it out and get a better hand on it.
Chris, I don't know if this is funny, but it's funny to me because I'm warped, okay? All these sanctuary cities, Chicago, I grew up outside Chicago, Gary, Indiana, New York, they're sanctuaries. Bring our dreamers. Bring until you actually bring the dreamers and then, hey, we don't want these folks here. Get them the hell out of here. It's funny to me when these bullshit politicians get called on their bullshit. Let's put it that way.
Yep. Not in my backyard is what they call it, right? It's a problem for you to solve it, but as soon as you bring the problem to me, it becomes a reality. Look, we hear the outgoing mayor in Chicago has been complaining about people being brought up there, and look, this is a problem. I wish it wasn't there, but you're talking 8,000 people in the course of a year. They had over 10,000 arrests last night. You've got Del Rio, Texas, in September a year or so ago, you had 16,000 people show up in 3 days. So I agree with you. It's kind of funny, and it's actually a really good a good point about getting the message out there. We've had people come out, from New York City, from representatives from other parts of the country that come and learn and see what's happening because it changes their view because they live in that bubble. They live in this political bubble. And then they kind of go, oh, wow, maybe I need to keep my mouth shut. It's not as bad as what the city of Yuma or Douglas, Arizona, or El Paso catching 1,500, or Del Rio or Brownsville, Texas. And that's, why we bring people out to the border. We have our NFL legends. We've brought several players out. We continue to build on that network. So we get a different voice out there to see the truth and tell it like it is, because I think that's what the American people need to hear. They need to make up these decisions on their own based on facts, not rhetoric, not on the nonsense that you hear from one spokesperson. But we get real people that have done real things, that have a voice in their communities, to come out here and say, hey, first of all, let's support our men and women on the border because they're dealing with the front lines. And second of all, they're doing a great job at what they're doing. But lastly, it's out of control, people. Don't let them fool you.
Appreciate you, because I am talking about three things basically outside of sports. One is the border. Two is boys, for whatever the reason, transgendering and playing with girls. And then the third is when I was a kid. I don't know how old you are, but when I was a kid, I'm 60, and Jimmy Carter was in office. I never heard the word inflation, and inflation almost crippled our family. So those are the three things I hit constantly. Because the three things that drive me nuts, how stupid we are to elect such an idiot. And your words, Tuberville's words, people that knows we're such an inept group to represent us. It drives me batshit crazy, if you want to know the truth.
Well, I remember waiting in gas lines with my parents for hours to get, and knew about inflation. And it's funny how all three of those are interconnected in the weirdest way, because here's what some politicians did. They want to pass a bill to make sure that anybody that is in the LGBTQ group does not get detained and is prioritized and immediately released from custody when they enter the country illegally. So that's their solution to a border crisis with 10,000 people a day coming across. Again, they're not putting the priority. I don't think the majority of people really want to put too much worry about that regarding the LGBTQ population. People are going to do what people do. However, to prioritize that in your border bill is nuts, because we have to secure the border. And just so you know, that's already considered a vulnerable population that we prioritize their safety to make sure they have what they need. But no one gets in the front of the line except for unaccompanied children, because they are our most vulnerable population. Look, again, I was just talking about our NFL players. We've got our group, border sports legends supporting border heroes. Welcome you down to the border. We'll coordinate a trip. One of our visits, you should come down and see it firsthand. We'll make something happen. So you can come back and just like I tell all members of Congress at the local level or the federal level, if you've got a voice, if you've got a vote on this border, you need to come down here and see it firsthand and get a good perspective. Talk to all the demographics, talk to the non-government organizations, talk to the Border Patrol agents, talk to the hospitals who are overwhelmed, talk to the city leaders who are overwhelmed at the border. And then you'll think differently when the biggest city in the country complains about 10,000 people, or one of the largest cities in the country complains about 8,000 people. Talk about a city that has 20,000 people in it, handling 30,000 bodies a month. There's a crisis for you.
Chris, I'm going to take you up on that. We've had Dan Pastorini and Brian Urlacher come on our show and describe it. Nobody's ever offered me the opportunity. I'm going to work with somebody. I want to get. I would love to take you up on that invitation, because this has me crazy. I spent my whole life coaching basketball, worried about family, all this kind of stuff, and I left ESPN to get involved in things like this, where you can have discussions. Because, as I said, I'm 60, and it's making me freaking nuts. To see what the hell's going on, and the difference between somebody like you speaking on it, who's actually there, and some clown getting up in a press secretary talking nonsense, or the president talking idiocy, or going down there for a photo op. I don't know if you can tell, but it makes me insane. It makes me me go back to my coaching days when I used to MF everything, throw things around, and rip ass every day. It makes me go back to those days.
Well, don't think that those words don't come out of my mind every time I read an updated article, or when I sat in my chief desk, behind closed doors. I tried to keep that level, to myself.
Yeah, you had to.
Yeah, but you mentioned Brian and Dan, both people that have become good friends of mine that we've gone to the border with. That are very special people. They're legends. They've done some great things. They're the type of people we're going to get down there. And let me tell you, Sonia can arrange that. She's the glue that's bringing all this together. That is bringing this team together. That's creating this foundation that connected all these dots. And so, you know how to get a hold of her, or she'll get a hold of you.
Yeah.
We'll make something happen, because that is, look, I think I'm going to be an optimist here, and I am generally optimistic. I think the American people, the majority, I like Olympic scoring, like take the highest and the lowest and get rid of it. It's that chunk in the middle.
Right.
It's the same way with politics, right? It's the same way with media. Take those extreme views on either side, get rid of them, and let the common sense people come up with solutions. And I think when we bring in these legends and people from around the country with different diverse backgrounds and different population communities that they serve, they see it. They bring a level of reasonableness to this and say, hey, I've been there, There's a lot of connections between, elite athletes and law enforcement, because that type A personality, that drive, that teamwork makes a difference. So we automatically connect. But y'all have a different platform, a different voice, and you get to see it. And it not only does it, is a boost in the morale for our men and women in uniform to see folks like yourself and the guys you mentioned come down there, but to also advocate for them and pat them on the back and support them is huge. We need that, because I tell you, being human's hard when you're dealing with this administration, because you're speeding up to a red light. You just kind of stop, and then you're waiting for the next direction. It's like, man, lead, follow, get out of the way. And we'd actually prefer the latter. Let the men and women that know what's going on take care of business, because they'll get it done. I'm telling you, I spent 27 and a half years with this agency, and I love it. And I love the men and women there. And the Border Patrol agents are going to get things done. They run to the sign of gunfire when you have a tragedy. Look, just this last week. You had that murder in East Texas where the guy went and shot those people over loud music. Our Border Patrol agents, our tactical teams were called up to support those local law enforcement out there in East Texas. It was our Border Patrol tactical team that tracked him down and arrested him. You know, so we've got, you just let us do our job. We're going to get it done. You get these crazy policies out of the way and let us secure this border. Let us figure out our plan to deal with the masses. We'll do it. But as soon as you get politics involved in it, oh, it's chaos.
Just let us do our freaking job, man.
Yep.
That seems so simple. I mean, hey, look,
right?
I was used to say they're paying me. They're paying me, so they want me to do something. So I'm going to do what I'm paid to do. Just let people do their job. Chris, had a blast. I want you to come back. I'm going to get with Sonia. I would much rather go to the border than go on vacation. I'm getting that done. You've inspired me, sir, and I thank you.
Let's do this podcast from the border after one of our visits. That's what we can do. That way we'll have a background there with some desert. Yep. We'll figure it out.
I'm in. I'm getting that done. Yep. That will happen.
You got it.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much.
I look forward to being back on and seeing you soon, okay?
Yes, sir. We're going to do it from the border. Oh, would that be good? Again, this is, I think, our best show that we've had. Chris was unbelievable because, look, we're here. We're going to talk sports, but I didn't leave ESPN just to talk sports. I left ESPN because this world is making me nuts, and talking to Chris or Coach Tuberville is absolutely inspiring to me because people speaking freely. What do you want me to do? You want me to turn on Twitter and watch some idiots say, well, that guy, this guy? Shut up. These are people that have been there. These are people that are doing it. These are people. And I've always said this, playing and coaching for 27, whatever it was, years is great. And then you become an announcer. It's great. Great game. But it ain't being inside. When you're inside, I don't care, the border, the government, like Tuberville is, and you look and you got to see how stupid. That's not true. That's not true. I've said this 20 national stories have been written about me and not one has been accurate. Not one. I can only imagine what the freaking front page is. All right, we come back. We're going to get into some sports. We're going to get into some stuff we didn't get into yesterday. I thank Chris for coming on. I thank Tommy Tuberville. Urban Meyer wants a piece of this. He's been texting me. He's been watching. I think he and we're going to go to the border. Hey, look, I'll shout from the highest mountains on this stuff. We'll be right back.
But recently, many people on the right have been accusing myself and Chris of being paid by the DNC, and we just wanted to come on and say that's an incredibly dumb thing to think. And look, if the DNC is handing out checks, we should be first in line to receive them, but that's simply not happening, and we haven't received a dime from the DNC. And we want to make it clear, we're perfectly happy to work with organizations that share our vision. So if someone reached out to us and say, hey, we're trying to make sure the environment is protected, we'd love to work with them. But we are simply not working with the DNC, and we want to reiterate that everything that's been posted on social media is public information.
Weird. Some quick research over Federal Election Commission data shows that actually the DNC made payments of over $210,000 to Palette Media, the talent agency that represents, you guessed it, the wannabe Backstreet Boys, Harry Sisson and Chris Mowry. And while I wish I could just continue to sit here and make fun of them and others like them because it's oh so easy, they wield a lot of power with young people, and underestimating their reach and their influence would be a mistake. As Republicans, conservatives, Trumpers, ultra-megas, whatever you want to call us, we cannot ignore this, and we cannot ignore Gen Z or millennial voters any longer. If we keep catering to old people and boomers, we will lose. If we keep thinking the RNC strategy of just throwing fancy donor dinners for rich white people will do the trick, we're going to find out the hard way when we lose again. We must show up on college campuses. We must be active on social media. We must fight for the hearts and the minds of young people and meet them where they are, one app at a time. I've dedicated much of my career to that very goal, and y'all know I'm going to fight like hell to reach them, but I can't do it alone. Conservatives came together and tanked Bud Light sales by 26%. We should for damn sure be able to take that same energy and transfer it to our election strategy. If we lose in 2024 to Joe freaking Biden because we refuse to get crafty and play the game, we don't deserve to continue our existence as a party. So get your iPhones out, folks. We've got work to do.
Hey, welcome back. I'm just tweeting out. This is the best, most interesting show that we have done. I really believe that. I mean, look, this administration is not about you or me. This administration, and Chris said this off air when I let him go just now. He said, this administration's about narrative. It's just absolutely disgusting. We got What the Hell Thursday coming up. It was What the Hell Wednesday yesterday, but now we've got Thursday. Mookie Betts, I want you to listen to this. He is scared of the hotel that the Dodgers were staying in. Now I want you to think about this. They were staying at the Pfister Hotel. It's a 130-year-old hotel right in downtown Milwaukee. Mookie Betts knows or researched or something that it has been discussed as haunted. There have been some infamous ghost tales, that they called it. Players, not only Mookie Betts, but have tried to avoid this. Why? Well, frankly, because it is, in their minds, haunted. So what did Betts do? He rented out an Airbnb. He made the move. He said, just in case the haunted house is the hotel is actually haunted. Now, Betts makes about $365 million, so he can go get himself an Airbnb. Listen to this. Bryce Harper, I love these stories. Bryce Harper said, when I woke up in the morning, I swear on everything, the clothes were on the floor and the table was on the opposite side of the room against the wall. I was so frustrated. I honestly thought there might be someone in my room. I had no idea what the hell had happened, so I actually looked around. Then I checked to see if the door was latched, and it was. So this isn't just Mookie Betts losing his mind. This baseball players, football players, broadcasters, we all talk. So he's like, hey, man, I don't care what you say. I'm not staying there because of experiences of others, and I don't like it. I love it. I think that's great. I do. That's one of the greatest stories ever. You don't want to stay in the hotel because we all know in baseball that it's haunted. Tomorrow, Benetti's going to join us. I'm writing it down. The Pfister. He talks about, I think it was the hotel. I think our guy, Jason Benetti, has experience with this hotel. Oh, by the way, did you know this? Yo MTV Raps. You know what that is? That's Yo MTV Raps. Well, Yo MTV Raps News, Kevin Loader et al., they're shutting it down. They're shutting the news portion down after 36 years. Now, I'm old enough to remember when MTV started. I'm old enough to remember when everybody got excited. That's where you turned, man. You had videos. You had sexy videos. You had news. You had, the legendary story in Bloomington, Indiana, was when John Mellencamp promoted the Little 500, and I literally sat on my balcony at Varsity Villas, and I watched cops in riot gear go right through Varsity Villas because, well, frankly, there were riots going on. Guys were flipping cars. The place was out of control. It was awesome. It was freaking awesome. Little 500 at Indiana and MTV and Mellencamp giving away a pink house was the epitome of college, or just after college, actually, for me in the 80s. And then the running back, Brett Law for Indiana, was lifting up, or part of guys lifting up a car right there from me as my then girlfriend became my first wife. And I sat there and watched it. I didn't want to get involved in it. This wasn't like now where everybody would have had a camera, but MTV was there. They made a big deal of it, and it was freaking awesome. Smartest thing Indiana University ever did. Now, Indiana University was named the #1 party school in the country after that. And I'm being literal here. I'm being literal. People at IU lost their minds. No, they lost their ever-loving minds. We started having a guy named Dean Gordon who would literally go from fraternity house to fraternity house. This was actually in the middle of all this. And fraternities would call other fraternities and say, hey, man, the dean's on the way. Hide your stash. I think there was one time a report, don't know if it's true, that the Fiji house had 55 kegs under a tarp in a hidden tunnel underneath. Don't know if it's true, but it's the stuff of legends. All right, a 14-year-old boy. Now remember, 14-year-old boys can now get themselves, have their penises cut off. They can tell their mommies and daddies that, well, you know what? I'm actually a girl. They can do this. Well, 14-year-old boy in Nashville, where we all reside, not me, but them, stole a school bus. Stole a school bus and went dozens of miles. And for whatever the reason, old boy tried to run over a person. For whatever the reason, old boy hit a diesel fuel pump. They broke the windows on the bus. They tased the kid as he tried to turn around on a major intersection highway to avoid spike strips. So this clown at 14 decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take the school bus for a joyride. The brazen, according to reports, the brazen young man started when an unarmed suspect stole the bus from the Kipp College Prep School in the Antioch neighborhood of southwest Las Vegas. He then recklessly drove 7 miles north on the Murfreesboro Pike, turned onto the Briley Parkway for a 9-mile jaunt across the city, stopped at a gas station where he drove into a diesel fuel pump and then tried to run over another customer. Here it is. Spree starts at Antioch, takes the bus north on 155 East, then stops at Casey's Market, where he hits a diesel pump, tries to run over a person. He turns around and gets back on 155 and turns on the 40 West, and then it ends at the McCroy exit, where he was trying to get back on the highway so he could go the opposite way on a highway and escape law enforcement. God bless you, son. Here's what you got. Maybe there's going to be a little stretch in juvie. Maybe there's going to be a little something with your parents. Maybe you're going to have a record. I don't know if they'll drop a felony on you. Maybe you can work that up. But I tell you what you got when you're my age, you got a hell of a story. You do. You got a hell of a story. You got the kind of story that people are going to go, what? Or if you still live in Nashville, people are going to go, you know what? I remember that. Were you that idiot that did that? Were you that clown? You did that? Yeah, that was me. Holy hell, what made you want to do that? I got high with my buddies. No, I don't know. Oh, man, I'm going to have to move real quick and plug in this, but not before we talk Costanza. The Brooklyn Cyclones have Seinfeld night. That's right. Who wouldn't have Seinfeld night? Look at this. They got a sweet, look at Georgie. Georgie taking in the right hand the golf ball out of the blowhole as a marine biologist. Everybody knows that George Seinfeld or George Costanza was a marine biologist, or at least he said he was when he was an Art Vandelay, noted architect. But George Costanza got called into action by a girlfriend. Has anybody seen a marine biologist? Here comes Costanza. The surf was rough that day. I jumped on the big fish, mammal. Whatever. Kramer had been hitting Titleist into the ocean. Costanza went out and bravely unplugged the blowhole and showed it at Monk's. Hole in one. How awesome is that? That is awesome. Yeah, so Costanza gets called on it. He ends up saving the day. I got to tell you, if no girl would be hot enough for me to walk into the surf and pull, I don't know, Sean Black. I don't know, Jenny. I don't know. Would you all do it on the YouTube chat? I'm not doing that on the YouTube chat. I'm not walking into the surf to save a whale. I mean, look here. I mean, I would love to save the whale. I'm embarrassed that I'm saying I wouldn't. But are you insane? Are you nuts? Not doing that. So anyway, marine biologists, they also have a lane dancing. They have a shrinkage race closest to the blowhole contest. They, of course, have the timeless art of seduction. It is last year, Seinfeld Night 2022 was awesome. This year, I assume it will be equally as good. We will let you know it is coming in May or in August, not May. It's already May. It ain't here. YouTube chat's asking why I look like this. Well, my wife lost my DOP kit, and this is all I got. Daniel Dakich, it is not a lie if you believe it. It's a story of my life. Oh, man. All right, let's see what else we got here. One of the things that is awesome about Wednesdays is you can make What the Hell Wednesday into What the Hell Thursday. And I'm not even mad about it. Robert De Niro, age 79. Good for De Niro. Look at that face. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. He's having a baby. It's his 7th kid at 79. Now, I read something. I don't know how old his wife is, but I got to tell you, you want that thing humping on you? I mean, seriously. Can you imagine how much Coke or tequila or both or whiskey or wine to go, yeah, hey, De Niro, come here, baby. Put a baby in this belly. I got to tell you, man, that takes a strong woman. I know he's famous, and I know he's probably a great dude, and I know he's a flaming ridiculous left extremist. We all understand that. But I got to tell you, I am not taking one for the team with Robert freaking De Niro. I also got to say, I'm not sure I ever thought at any point in my broadcasting career that I would be discussing taking one for the team with Robert De Niro. But apparently that face right there, that body, that 79-year-old guy still can get it done. Good for him. I think you got to be nuts. It's like if I ever see the ESPN reporter that was stooping my boy Doyle, I'm going to go, what was wrong with you? Like, what are you doing? Letting that guy do that. What's the problem here? No self-esteem? What are we doing? What are we doing? Oh, man, that's the kind of show that I like. All right, this serious news. Investigators determined that the punter god, Matt Araiza, was not present during an alleged gang rape. This is very serious. The punter has spoken out about the very dark 8 months he had to endure. Here's a quote from Matt. I'm thankful for the facts of this case as provided by the witnesses will prove what I've been saying from the beginning, is in fact the truth. I can only hope that now people will assess me on the facts and not what was falsely claimed in both the civil suit and in the press. Press is jackass. If you want to know what the press is all about, go look at what Tucker Carlson put out first thing back on how the innuendos and the different things that the press uses to crush people. I'm beyond thankful for the unwavering support of my family and friends. They've been a rock in what has been a very dark 8 months for me. However, now that the truth is out, I'm amazed by the thousands of emails and tweets supporting me. It's been a blessing to know so many people are now judging me by the facts. Isn't that amazing? Like, isn't that just astounding that we don't judge people by the facts? We have this thing in our country called innocent before proven guilty, right? What are we doing? Julie DiCarlo, the scumbag editor of Deadspin, allowed an article to be printed. Now, Julie DiCarlo is one of the worst people that you'll ever find on Twitter. She's an Indiana graduate, and she's very vocal and very nasty and very horrible. And maybe it's her own life experiences. I don't know what her life experiences are, but she is god-awful. And she allowed a ridiculous article that I'm not even going to tell you who wrote it to go on Deadspin. She's an editor. And, of course, like all chicken blanks, like Julie DiCaro, she has since, once she started getting ripped on Twitter, she's always hidden behind being a woman and lying. She totally lied about me when I wouldn't go in a pool with a woman that wasn't my wife. She was ridiculous, hateful, and horrible. But, of course, now that people are coming at Julie DiCaro, her sorry ass protects her tweets. My tweets are now protected. She was one of the biggest loudmouths go after any guy that looked even crossways 20 years ago at a woman. She and the DUI factory that is Rick Tellender, who used to be one of my favorite writers. He's with the Chicago Tribune. He judges everyone. Of course, he got a DUI and weaseled his way out of it. Those two jackasses come at people all the time, but scared to death when people come at them. So kiss my ass, Julie DiCaro, for allowing Matt Ariza, this kid right here, to be crucified in an article by the most ridiculous of people. People get facts from headlines and not actual information. And I got to tell you, that is 1,000% true. This is why you love our show, because we are not the normal show. We will never be the normal show. I'm sitting here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you on a little tour here. I'm going to take you on a little tour. See, I am at I like the place. I think the place is great. A little dark over here. You're going to see there's some tents over here. This is the bar area. where it'll be open from 5 until 10. Our game is at 2. Lee and I are in charge of the tailgating. But the truth of the matter is, if I don't plug this phone in, or if I don't plug this computer in about 2 seconds, I am going to lose power. This is why you love my show. That's right. Don't at me cribs. This is why people say, Dakich, your show is freaking awesome. I'm not going to lie. I was in TSA. Where was I just now? Newark? Wherever the hell I was coming back from. And a guy at the TSA goes, hey, I watch you on YouTube. I'm like, yeah, I'm at 1%. Sorry, it's going to be a little dark here at the end. But we are at the Chauncey. All right, let's do this. Let's go to Wokadope. Where's the Wokadope, you guys? While you're making fun of me, America should accept it. Let's establish. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's exactly right. This is the funniest thing. This is what I talked to Chris Krem about. Like, let's be honest. I mean, there it is. People should accept illegal immigrants. Let's establish sanctuary cities. Boom. Why would Republicans send illegal immigrants to us? I think we should send them constantly. Don't send them to India. Don't send them to India. We haven't been a sanctuary city. We're a city where we allow BLM to destroy our city. We are a city that allows crime. We are a city that encourages crime. We are a city that can't wait for crime. I had to go check. There's no crime here at the Chauncey Hotel, but I wanted to make sure because I left my stuff over there. But we in Indianapolis, hey, leave us be. We got enough crime. That's fine. Don't mess with us. What's next here, Dylan? No kidding. My man says social media put pressure on him to transition into a woman and stopped him from realizing his mistake. Yeah, well, let me tell you something. If social media put pressure on you to transition you to a woman, and if social media did anything I'm trying to figure out which way to go. There you go. If social media pressured you to do anything, then you're an idiot. And whatever happens with you, happens with you. I mean, let's be honest with you. Social media shouldn't pressure you to do nothing. Let me tell you how you get rid of you click off. It's hard to do. Look, I'm a bit addicted, as my wife says, but I have to be for my job. I want everybody, will you do me a favor? Will you click like, click subscribe, please? I want this show to go on for years and years and years. We want to keep blanking people off. But I got to tell you, if social media puts pressure on you to do any damn thing, then you're soft. You're no good. You're a weenie. And we've got too many weenies in this country. We've got too many whiners and too many weenies. Look, you want to transition to a woman? You're that guy's age, be a woman. You want to transition to a dude? You're that dude's age, be a dude. Who cares? It's like, hey, live your best life, baby. But don't blame it on social media. Don't blame it on that. Are you insane? What is wrong with you? Not blaming it on social media. A guy just asked me, Dan, who wins today? I don't know. I got to tell you, if you are in the general vicinity, actually, last time we were here at Princeton for a series about a month ago, a lady came up. She's from Zionsville. She's like, hey, watch your show. And knew you guys were here. Just want to introduce myself. She and her husband live here half the year and live in Zionsville half the year. And it's pretty cool. So make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you ring the bell, because we are going to get this done. This I can promise you. We are going to make OutKick the #1 destination for real news. Real news. We're not for everybody. If you want to sit out there and be fake, if you want to sit out there and be phony, if you want to sit out there and you're so extreme on the left that you can't think, or you're so extreme on the right that you can't think, this ain't the place for you. This is for common sense and truth. And I also got to say something else back to Bob Huggins. All right, here's the deal. So some of my colleagues, David Hookstead, I think he'll be joining us tomorrow. He wrote an article, Clay has written about, hey, I don't want, and I'm glad that West Virginia did not cancel Bob Huggins. That's their words. I didn't really care. I didn't care what they did. I knew they weren't going to cancel him. I know Chad and Jonathan said on when it happened, yeah, that's the end of his coaching career. I know West Virginia well enough that there's no way those guys are going to do that. And Huggins is too big a legend. And David Hookstead actually wrote a really good article that I want to talk to him tomorrow about, which is Nate Oates has a guy involved in a capital murder, has another guy, Brandon Miller, that brings the gun to the capital murder. Another guy gets stopped for weed and all this other crap, and nothing is done to him. Whereas Bob Huggins says words, and he gets $1 million fine. Look it up. Look and see what kind of crime you've got to commit to get fined $1 million. Sensitivity training. And, of course, his contract is now year to year, not over the course of multi-years. Fine, great. But the truth of the matter is, I didn't care whether Huggins was fired or not. I'm glad he's not. I don't know. I'm not Pat Forty that's saying, and I don't disagree with Pat. Pat Forty says that Huggins is the most powerful man in West Virginia because he can say those things and get away with it. Mike Freeman has gone nuts. Other people have gone nuts. That's great. That's every. But see, here at OutKick, here's the deal. We encourage. It is encouraged to have thought, different thought. It is encouraged. I don't have to agree with everything going on that Clay says or Mike says, David says, or whomever. I don't have to agree with all that. Why would I? But I have an opinion, and I respect others' opinions. So I got all kinds of people on Twitter saying, "Well, don't you read, Dakich? See, you guys aren't all in line with the same." Of course we're not. Why would we be? And who the hell is Mike? And if you're just joining us, I'm in a bar here at the Chauncey Hotel at Convention Center because I got down to 1%. Do you know, being on this computer, I had it 100% charged. I just learned today, this computer cannot make it a 2-hour show like this on 100% charge. So tomorrow, what I'm going to do is... Hey, give me about what and I don't understand this. Maybe you guys understand this. George Clooney in Ocean's 11 said, "Give me a whiskey. What does that mean? Give me 2 shots of whiskey. One make it Fireball. I got softball today. I'll tell you something. I'll just no White Russians. That's my mother-in-law, the great Sandy Ross. I will tell you this. Last time we were here, Princeton won 2, Harvard won 1. All right. First game was Friday, I believe. Doubleheader Saturday. Oh. So on the doubleheader Saturday, Harvard loses. So they're down 2-0. Lee and I go to a local place. We get a drink, shot and a beer. We get a shot and a beer. Some little dive bar we found. Guys were great in there. So shot in the beer, we come back, Harvard wins. Tegan has the worst game of her career in the field. She's the best fielding third baseman. Tegan's my stepdaughter that I've ever seen. She throws a ball away. The coach takes her out mid-inning in the 7th, which Lee's like, "Yeah, she should." And I'm like, "Oh, boy." All right. So here's the question. Do we tomorrow, there's a single game today, possible doubleheader. If Harvard is still alive tomorrow, do we go to that same bar and have the same shot in the beer because Harvard won? Or do we not go to that same bar in between games and have a shot in the beer because Tegan played poorly? Now that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call a good old-fashioned quandary. Ryan, you've been on fire today with the closed captioning. Been great. I'm just going to tell you, this to me was the most interesting show we've ever done. Haley and Katie and Aaron and Ryan and Dylan, I cannot thank you guys enough. Look, I would love for everybody that is currently on here to not only say thank you to you, if you would please hit the like button, if you would please tell your friends, because we need more shows like this. We do. America needs more shows like this. We combine sports, pop culture, some sex, we swear, we do whatever. It's great. And we blank some people off, which is great. All right, I want everybody to have a great afternoon. 2:30 it starts. Crimson against the hated Yaleys. We'll talk to you tomorrow, 9 a.m. right here. Stay tuned all day. We've got a Schilling show. We've got the guys on Hot Mic and, of course, Clay and Tommy. See you later.